To create a half double crochet, we are going to start with a slip knot. And create a chain. Once we create our chain, we are going to skip this first chain from our hook. Then we will work in this second chain from our hook. Before we insert our hook into this chain, we're going to do a yarn over. So I'll go ahead and yarn over. Then insert my hook into that chain. Once it's inserted, I will then yarn over again and pull a loop just through that chain. I'll push that loop up onto my hook so that all the loops are the same size. And I should now have 3 loops on my hook. Then I finish the stitch by doing a yarn over and pulling through all 3 loops on my hook at the same time. My half double crochet is now complete. I then repeat that into the next chain. So I find my next chain here. Before I insert my hook, I go ahead and yarn over. Then insert my hook through that chain. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Make sure I push it back so that it's the same size as the other loops. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 at the same time. If at first you're having difficulty pulling through all 3 at the same time, you can pull through 1 or 2 at a time and then keep repeating that until you get it all the way to the end, whatever's easiest for you to start. Eventually you will be able to get to the point where you can pull it through all 3 at one time. I'm going to yarn over again, go into my next chain here, yarn over, pull up my loop, then yarn over, pull through all 3. And I'll just keep repeating that until I've worked a half double crochet into every chain across. I have now finished my first row of half double crochets. To make my second row, I'm going to turn my work so that I'm now going in the same direction I was going before when I was working in the chain. Before I insert my hook into this first stitch, I'm going to do a turning chain. For a half double crochet, you could do either a chain 1 or a chain 2, just depending on what a pattern might call for, or depending on the look you might go for if you are working on your own. In this case, I'm just going to do a chain 1. So we can see here, after doing that chain 1, we are now up to the height of our stitch. And then we can find that there's this gap in the tops of each of our half double crochets, where we've got this yarn loop on the bottom, and then we have our 2 loops of the V on top. So to work in this first gap, I'm going to first work a yarn over, then insert my hook into that gap, making sure I'm going under both loops of the V on top. Then I'll yarn over, pull a loop through so that it goes under that stitch. Then make sure I push it up onto my hook to make the loops all the same size. I will then yarn over and pull through all 3. Half double crochet is now finished. And then find my next stitch, yarn over, then again, yarn over, insert my hook into that gap of my next stitch, making sure I'm going under both loops of that V, yarn over, pull through, pushing my loops back up onto my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. I then proceed to repeat that into every stitch across until I reach the end. This last stitch can sometimes be a bit tricky to figure out where you need to insert your hook, but what you'll want to do is just turn your work towards you and keep turning it, and you will eventually see that there's this big V right here. So you've got the loop on the right and left, and that's where you're going to want to insert your hook, is underneath the loops of that V. So if I grab them and kind of pull them here, I can see this gap right here. That's where I'm going to insert my hook for my last stitch. So I'll yarn over, insert into that gap, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. And that is my second row of half double crochet. Then I would proceed by turning my work, do a chain 1. That's our turning chain, so that won't count as a stitch. So I will then work into this first one, yarn over, insert into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And now I'm able to continue working half double crochets into every stitch across. And then I remember when I get to the end, if I have some difficulty, I simply turn it to look for that V. I can then kind of grab those strands, kind of tug it a bit to help me find the gap that I need to work into. This one's a little trickier, but if you just kind of shove your hook into there underneath that V, that makes that gap more visible. Right there. Then I will do my last stitch through there. And now I've finished my third row. And then you proceed to repeat that over and over, and that is how you do a half double crochet.